to fulfill the long-held promise of a new world order, we can find meaning and reward by serving some higher purpose than ourselves, a shining purpose, the illumination of 1,000 points of light.
And many of them are so inert, so hopelessly dependent on the system, that they will fight to protect it. Were you listening to me, Neo? Or were you looking at the woman in the red dress? I was... Look again.
The idea of globalization was so prominent in Nazi ideology that the 1936 Berlin Games would be the first time that the Olympic rings would be displayed prominently and promoted in order to glorify the Third Reich. This symbol represents the 5 major regions of the world: Africa, America, Asia, Europe, and Oceania, interlocking and coming together as one. This one world philosophy still defines the Olympic Games today.
Australia, hello and welcome. One world, one dream.
Hitler's methods of youth corps, concentration camps, eugenics, and military aggression were so visible to the rest of the world, he eventually failed. However, his vision of a new world order lived on. Author H.G. Wells, the man behind The Time Machine and War of the Worlds, would write about a planned world state in which there must be a common faith and law for mankind. In 1939, he would publish a full book on the matter called The New World Order.
That's how the devil would do it. We see the World Council of Churches, the National Council of Churches, openly funded by Carnegie, Ford, and Rockefeller foundations. They go in, and now all the big churches, Catholic, a lot of Baptists, Methodists, you know, Bill Gates is good, eugenics is good, open borders is good, the family's bad. They are turning these into devilish propaganda arms.
Well, the Council on Foreign Relations exists today. It's probably the most powerful single organization in America. Many observers, including myself, believe that it is the hidden government of the United States. These people are not elected to office, and most Americans don't even know who they are. But they are holding all of the important positions in society. There are only about 4,000 of them in the United States, but I don't care what organization you want to look at, whether it's government or whether it's the universities or the large media centers or whatever it is. You look at the people at the tops of those organizations, the owners, the managers, the CEOs, the board of directors, and I'm going to say probably 80 to 90% of the great power centers of America are dominated by just those 4,000 people who are members of the Council on Foreign Relations.
Throughout its history, it would contain extremely influential and powerful individuals in finance, business, media, and politics. Former presidents of the United States include Richard Nixon, Gerald Ford, Jimmy Carter, and William Jefferson Clinton.
And folks, the devil isn't going to show up in a red pajamas like Anton LaVey with a little black goatee. The devil comes as an angel of light, and whether you believe in God or not, the UN and everybody else at the global level has announced they want a one-world religion. The Pope has announced they want a one-world religion, the last one. And this is the system that is being pushed, where they come at you with this world religion.
Currently, Barack Obama claims not to be a member, but has spoken in front of the Council and has had his writings published in the Council's magazine, Foreign Affairs.
It's been reported that you and your wife are in the globalist CFR, which is the Council on Foreign Relations. I'd like to know if that is true.
Well, first of all, I'm not... The Council on Foreign Relations, I don't know if I'm a official member. I've spoken there before. It basically is just a forum where a bunch of people talk about foreign policy. And so there's nothing, there's no official membership. I don't have a card or, a special handshake or anything like that.
Now, why is that important? It's important because the avowed purpose of the Council on Foreign Relations is to create a new world order, a global government based on the model of collectivism. And that includes the elimination of the United States as a sovereign nation. That's why it's important. The people running this country are determined to destroy it.
The council was heavily criticized during the 1980s for being an organization hell-bent on destroying national sovereignty in favor of a world government.
Now, you are the president of the Council on Foreign Relations, all right? Yes, sir. You guys toy with countries of the world like toys, don't you? You're like the Illuminati, you're the Masons, you control everything, don't you? That's the rap on you guys.
What's so interesting now, though, is who's on the chessboard. It's the toys, if you will, are a lot more than states.
Notice that Mr. Haas does not deny that the CFR has massive control over the geopolitical arena, and instead tries to focus on the separate entities outside of nation-states. Current Secretary of State Hillary Clinton also reveals the importance of the CFR here.
But it's good to have an outpost of the council right here down the street from the State Department. We get a lot of advice from the council, so this will mean I won't have as far to go to be told what we should be doing and how we should think about the future.
You have these private groups that are run and created by the elite, by the ultra-rich, wealthy families that have been manipulating global markets from behind the scenes for generations. They create these private groups that then feed information to the government, to senators, to congressmen, their recommendations, their policy papers, what they think should happen. And it's fascinating because if you actually read what it is that they're doing, the recommendations that they make, they're very able to get them put in place. Discussions that are going on in these private groups are really talks that should be going on in Senate committees and in the halls of Congress, but they're happening with these ultra-elite groups that are then pushing their propaganda into the political mainstream, and then it's becoming enacted, it's becoming put into law.
And they've had Democratic House members talking about this just in the last week, Conyers and others. And so there's no doubt with the clergy response teams, they've covertly taken over with the faith-based initiative most of the churches in this country.
And they use the expression to me, devil's Messiah. Now, whether you will hear it from another or not, you may not, because naturally this is really getting down to the hardcore of it. You have to keep in mind, I've been a minister of the gospel for 50 years. I'm in my 70s, but still very active. And this man uses expressions to me that you might not hear otherwise. Devil's Messiah. And it includes an entire program or a whole facet of their perversion, which they have to do in order to bring in the New World Order. They cannot bring the devil's Messiah to a righteous people.
Well, of course they've got
to perverted religion.
Of course they've got to go through the back door and take over the churches to do this. That happens in every authoritarian system.
And together they helped to create, were the principal leaders in creating, a new world order and a winning strategy in the Cold War.
We are part of a new world order. And as the recently departed Admiral William J. Crowe once said, it's long on new and it's short on order.
Walter Isaacson wrote a wonderful book about some of the wise men who helped shape the New World Order following the Second World War.
As we devise a way forward in Iraq, I urge the international community to embrace its responsibility for creating that new world order. A new world order based upon collective action.
The transatlantic partnership was never just the foundation of our security. It was the foundation of our way of life. It was forged an experience of the most bitter and anguished kind. Out of it came a new Europe, a new world order, a new consensus as to how life should and could be lived.
And just like that, it was gone. It was the It was a new world order.
If the Christ or Buddha returned today, would you recognize him? The one awaited by all major religions has come when we least expected it. He is ready to emerge openly very soon. Look for a bright star shining in the sky night and day as a sign of his public emergence.
But I mean, Lindsay, specifically, what did he tell you about this religious world leader? You've talked about this before. What's the latest on what he calls the devil's Messiah?
Well, it's the religious control, basically, is what we're talking about. Not only is their program government and political and monetary, such as we've talked about in the mortgage crisis and so on, they definitely have what was referred to me back about 2 years ago, devil's Messiah. And as a result, I did an entire section on it on one of your programs one day, how they're working through 501c3 organizational status with churches, how that it also is in our schools, what they're doing with introducing evolution years ago. Every bit of this is a part of that total. Okay, basically, here's the way he put it. He said we had to remove the God that America was founded on from society in order to bring about our new world order. That was their statement.
Religious leader Pope Paul VI. Delegates to international organizations, public officials, gentlemen of the press, teachers and educators, all of you must realize that you have your part to play in the construction of a new world order. As well as former President Richard Nixon.
And the hope that each of us has to build a new world order.
However, Nixon was largely a mouthpiece for his most dominant advisor, Secretary of State Henry Kissinger. Kissinger may be the most vocal proponent for a new world order of his era. He has called for it time and time again, in policy papers, meetings, and interviews.
I know you're out there. I can feel you now. I know that you're afraid. You're afraid of us. You're afraid of change.
The idea of global governance and a one world order has been around for centuries, and the term New World Order has been used frequently in recent history.
The New World Order means different things to different people, but to those who expect to be in control of it, it means the same thing. It means all the world under their control. They believe that somebody must rule. After all, people are too darn dumb to know how to rule themselves. They figured that that's their role.
Just to show where our loyalty belongs to. You see this flag here? It's going to go on the floor. And to us, our loyalty does not belong to this flag. Our loyalty belongs to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Takbir! Allahu Akbar! Allahu Akbar! Allahu Akbar! La ilaha illallah!
The Great Mosque of Rome, shown in this video by the architect Paolo Portoghesi. It is the largest mosque in Europe with room for 12,000 worshippers, and it is a powerful symbol for Italy's fast-growing Muslim population.
To us, that flag represents the war in Islam and Muslims. To us Muslims, that flag represents the Crusader War in Islam, headed by the United States government. To us Muslims, that flag represents the biggest terrorist state in the whole world.
Shown here praying illegally in the streets of Rome. Large mosques have been built or are on the drawing board in virtually every major city in Europe. The skyline of Cologne, Germany has been dominated for centuries by its famous cathedral, the largest Gothic church in Northern Europe. But soon this church will share the skyline with the 150-foot-tall minarets of this mosque.
With the deen of Haqq, with Islam, to dominate all of our other religions, to dominate the United States, to dominate the world, even though the non-Muslims may hate it. Takbir! Allahu Akbar! Takbir! Allahu Akbar!
The Cologne Mosque, which is being funded by the government of Turkey, is opposed by groups who see it as a piece of Turkish territory in the heart of Germany.
This mosque is a symbol of political power. This is a symbol of Islamization in the center of Europe.
Takbir! Allahu Akbar! La ilaha illallah! La ilaha illallah! Justice! This is not so much like your countries back at home where you raise your voice against the government and they come after you and they take you in for torture. No. In this country, one of the loopholes of this government is they allow the freedom of expression.
In London, a plan to build a mega mosque, the largest in Europe, ran into strong